te yesam samudena krito vishyasayah evam krityam kisat sabda vrityam asanitita paramanvyo ye avidyaya manasya kriptyaste esamukhena krito vishyasyaha. Vityam. Ladies. Mostly described asita sabda of the word earth, shritam, the existence, asat, not real, vidnyanat, from the disillusion, parma anadvyaha, atomic particles, all of which, avidya, cause of intelligence, manasa, in the mind, kalpitaha, imagine, te, they, yesam, of which, samudena, by the aggregate, kritaha, made, vishaha, the particulars. Translation purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. One may say that varieties arise from the planet Earth itself. However, although the universe may temporarily appear to be the truth, it ultimately has no real existence. The Earth was originally created by a combination of atomic particles, but these particles are impermanent. Actually, the atom is not the cause of the universe, although some philosophers think so. It is not a fact that the varieties found in the material world simply result from atomic juxtaposition or combination. Please repeat. One may say that varieties arise from the planet Earth itself. However, although the universe may temporarily appear to be the truth, it ultimately has no real existence. The Earth was originally created by a combination of atomic particles, but these particles are impermanent. Actually, the atom is not the cause of the universe, although some philosophers think so. It's not a fact that varieties found in this material world simply result from atomic juxtaposition or combination. Purport. Those who follow the atomic theory think that the protons and electrons of atoms combine in such a way as to bring all material existence into being. However, the scientists fail to discover the cause of atomic existence itself. Under these circumstances, circumstances, we cannot accept that the atom is the cause of the universe. Such theories are advanced by unintelligent people. According to real intelligence, the real cause of the cosmic manifestation is the Lord, the Supreme Lord. Yamini Asyayataha. He is the original cause of all creation, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 10.8. Aham sarvasya prabho matya sarvam paritite. Krishna is the original cause. Sarva karna karanam. He is the cause of all causes. He is the cause of Adam. Bhumir aput nalo yaha kam namana bhaktirevacha. Ahankara etyam me vina prakriti ashidaha. The ultimate cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and only those in ignorance try to find out other causes by posing different theories. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So a little story first. I read this, that there was 5 prominent scientists that were trying to discover the ultimate cause of truth and beauty. They wanted to discover and map out infinity. They wanted to describe and delineate where it begins and where it ends. Now, infinity, by definition, has no end, has no beginning, infinity. So, these 5 scientists ended up a similar fate. One guy shot himself, one guy hung himself, 2 guys went insane, and ultimately their journey was inward. They were looking microscopically. And the more they looked, the more they found incredible. Because in the atom, within the nucleus of this primeval substance, there's a machine that runs so fast, and it stops. Suddenly it can reverse in the same speed. So the more they looked, the more they found there was infinity. It kept increasing. Infinity, by definition, has no limit. And so they're describing Krishna as the Supreme Personality. And so scientists, and Prabhupada is just against science, primarily, just against all scientists, because they all propagate their own little theories, and they have their name attached to every little innovation they find. Ultimately, it's all caused by the Supreme Lord. So to discover the causes, it takes someone who understands it. Sometime back, a devotee sat here and gave a class that spirit comes from matter. And so and we all know spirit comes from life comes from life, not from matter. But he was testing out the audience to see who was awake. But he was like questioning the basic premise of science and the way scientists think. So, the life comes from matter. Now, everybody knows life comes from life. And Prabhupada made a big issue of that. He was so happy to see that the scientists were here for that first seminar, and Prabhupada was still present. And so Sri Damar, with his scholastic achievement, he got his PhD in science and chemistry. So he stood up against one of these guys who had a Nobel Prize laureate saying that life comes from matter. And so he says, if I give you all the ingredients, can you create that life? He said, no, there's no chance, because ultimately that combination is irreversible. It's by Krishna's arrangement only. And so on the atomic level, Prabhupada's saying that there is atomic theory, that the passage of time, the time it takes for the sun to pass over an atom is described as time. So time itself is relative to the atom. And the atom is described as time itself in a sense. Okay, as the atom is understood by material scientists, that ultimately all these combinations and juxtaposition of parts and parcels have been just done by accident. And so Prabhupada made that very clear. There are no accidents in this creation, that Krishna is in charge and control of everything that exists. So there's no way that anything can happen by chance. Or we can jump into shallow water. Prabhupada described like that, okay, scientists, they're jumping at conclusions and they keep changing. By definition, a scientist means it's a person who propagates a certain theory and then ultimately someone else has first guy jumped in without looking, but the lake, the little swimming pod, it was full of snakes. It was full of cottonmouth rattlesnakes. And so the guy was like, struggling in there, being bitten by all these snakes. And ultimately, he said, "Don't jump in." His last words as he was done. So the same thing with material science. Don't jump in. But ultimately, endeavor. And then the sages of Namisharan didn't want to know about the politics of the time. They're very happy. So we should be listening to pure Krishna. So behind the underlining of all things created is the Supreme Lord. And so in connection with that, how Krishna without the overview of the Lord himself. Now, I want to go over a couple of points that Maharaj spoke yesterday, that the phenomenal and nominal world, I was a little confused, that in the dictionary it has an absolute, reality is an illusion, it's phenomenal aspect of things created is something that depending on the nominal. And so that the nominal is like the spiritual fiber, substance. But the nominal and nominal are different terms and a little confusing. And I had to figure it out this morning. I got the light. And so actually everything is in this material world is known as a phenomenal existence because it's based on something that's not a bit of this philosophy is that ultimately what appears to be illusory, or what appears to be real, is actually a creation of illusion. And so the phenomenal world, the miracles that seem to be taking place is nothing more than an arrangement of understanding of how to do it. So once you want to and you practice and you can levitate. And so what's the point? Because you can jump into a plane and go anywhere you want. And there's all these different cities that are taking place is also caught by the materialists, and they've invented everything. There's a whole bunch of terms that I thought very fascinating, and it's coming up some of the upcoming slokas, and where Prabhupada talks about family life and how contaminated it can be for those who are not aware of Krishna consciousness. So it's talked about that there's 6 plunderers in the material world. The 6 plunderers are our senses, of course, and they're being plundered and been led away astray from different reasons. And so he gives these unusual. The jackals, wolves, and lions are existing within this dark, cold material. And the wolves are the children, and the lions are the relatives. So when we listen to relatives and we go, I had the occasion to go back to my hometown. I only speak briefly about it, but it served a purpose that I'll never go back again. That, my nephew is an expert bowman. He can put an arrow right through another arrow, and so he brought down a couple of deer. And so I said, you didn't see Bambi? I mean, that movie came out years ago, but it was taken from the viewpoint of the deer. And so the killing business goes on, and they won't listen. And I'm sitting with my friends, and they're all eating meat, and I can't even look at it anymore. It's like, so the same thing, Prabhupada talks about Jet Bharat in the sense that we don't associate. I mean, he learned from his past life where he was remembering the deer body. You just don't associate with those in a common framework who have no knowledge of Krishna or spiritual life. You avoid that. You avoid that association. So he did it by deaf, dumb, and not responding in any way. And so, in the sense that we have to do the same thing where it's impending on our own spiritual life, that there's a threat that we can be. If you go back to your hometown, many devotees have done this. I'm going back to my origins. And so they go back and they give up sannyas, they give up being a devotee, they lose everything. And so you can't go back, you got to go forward. The forward motion is the means by which we can conquer Maya. And it's only through devotee association and understanding what the Lord says. And the only way we can get that knowledge is through, of course, the spiritual master. And Prabhupada gives that information over and over again. So if we're looking, I spent a good part of my life looking for the absolute in truth and beauty. And so I've written a whole book about it. And so that search for perfection, for the absolute and truth of beauty, can only be found in one personality, Lord Krishna, Supreme Lord. But people in the material world, I had no access to any of that knowledge before. I never heard the name Krishna. And so people in the world, I think at large, are in the same position. They don't know yet. So although the movement is expanding and still there's a lot of avenues left to explore. So the ultimate in truth and beauty, of course, is denominated by Krishna alone. He's the ultimate, certainly, in all ways. So like we're looking for gold. We find gold, it's flickering, it's chinchina, like vent. It's here a while and it's gone. So if you're building a big house, and Prabhupada gives this analogy, that if you're constructing a big palace for yourself, 20 rooms. I saw on the internet that there's people with like one house with 50 bathrooms and 200 rooms. Now, what do you need 200 rooms for? And so ultimately you build a big mansion, like King Rahuganath being a king is akin to that. He has a big palace someplace in his place, his province, and ultimately living a kingly life. But we all have to avoid that, avoid kingly association, meaning and avoid paying taxes. Prabhupada had the very simple formula that you don't keep any money in the bank, especially brahmacharis. He has never, ever thought that a brahmachari would have a bank account, or sannyasi, but if you're keeping your own money, it's different. But certainly not money from the Lord, Prabhupada's blood. It cannot be digested. There's many examples that people have tried and left the movement and died with that bitter taste. You can't do it. So avoiding taxes, they just put all your money into books, and Prabhupada did that, books and temples. So there's no bank account. So any money comes in the morning, goes out by afternoon. So there are more of these names. Caught by the illusionary society, friendship, love, family, identifying with our body and our hearts believe that we're going to blood sucking in certain animals your blood, your skin, and they suck away, So mosquitoes are like envious people, and we're looking for happiness in the material world. It's like the mirage in the desert. And so that mirage is like incumbent on everybody. They're seeking happiness where it can't exist. Doing business leads to devastation. One famous person is $14 million in debt today. And so you can't do that. Business is something you avoid as much as possible. You do as much to maintain, ultimately, avoid material contamination. So to be able to function in the material world, take in lots. Ultimately, you're doing it in the goal business. You're taking all this money and give it 10% to the temple. I had one friend that was asking to help us with the project in America. So what's my cut? So it used to be 100% profit. But now it's, I'll take 40%. And you can have 60. No, I'll take 50, you take 50. So it's gotten down to a point now where the collection is a whole different world. And people climbing, Gaurnitai Kijai, Krishna Balaram Kijai, Radhashyaman Sundar Lita Shaka Kijai. If you're interested in climbing this big, huge mountain of success, it's probably gives it a definition later in the chapter, that it's cricker bushes and rocks and stone, sharp objects all the way up. So in other words, the higher you climb, the bigger you show yourself and the more you're susceptible to being shot down. So the pillar of success means to remain humble, simple, and devoted, and numb to material life. A spiritual person doesn't have to show his prominence. It doesn't elude, his erudite scholarship. Rather, he's simple and pure in every way. That means humility. The badge, the emblem of the success of the devotee is humility. So, climbing that mountain of fame and fortune leads to disaster. Those that get there ultimately can accumulate so much because, according to Jyotish Shastra, the science of astrology and astronomy, Jyotish means what you're born with, what you're going to have. So if you're born to get $1 billion, you'll get it. You don't even have to try for it. But if you're destined to get nothing, no matter how hard you try, there's nothing's going to come. So, and I told my father this. I had a little bit of premonition about this, and he was a hard-working man. I said, Dad, why are you working so hard? He says, money's coming. We got plenty of food on the table. You don't have to bother yourself with all this. And, no, you got to. Someday you'll learn. Well, I wish my father was here to hear this now, because you don't have to work that hard to accumulate a whole bunch of money. It'll come automatically. So if you strive really hard, you get it quick. And if you wait some time, it'll come over a period of time. So whether you're in a hurry or you're not in a hurry, it's coming. So don't bother yourself about material finances, and remain simple and common. And the whole idea is that Prabhupada gave this invitation for the whole world to come to Vrindavan. Sit in Vrindavan and deal with your spiritual life. And forget your family attachments and give that all up, because ultimately there's nothing there. You see all these travel posters, come and enjoy here. Travel to hell, enjoy the hellish punishments. So that's basically what life is all about. It's like traveling to hell and enjoying nothing that can only take you down harder and deeper. So basically, Lord Chaitanya was able to sum up the whole thing in the famous Achinta Veda Veda Tattva. So although there's discrepancies and there's illusions in the material world, we think one way spiritually, another way materially. Ultimately, there's a conflict back and forth. The dictionary definition of these two terms, phenomenal and nominal, are different. So that means that ultimately, Chinta Veda Veda, same was simultaneously non-different, but one. So that sums up everything. So if there's any problem, Lord Chaitanya cleared it by that definition. And there are more of these names. I gotta say a few more things. Like this flash of material wealth. If you're for a while, you got a lot of gold in your hands, you may have a lot of money. And it may come and it may go, and that's fast. It can be over in a second. You can lose everything. And so it's all based on, our samskar, what we're born with. So I'm one of the persons who like to, take it very slowly. I'm not after money, never was. And so when it comes, it goes. But this is called like the whirlwind of dust that flashes across your face. It's, everything attached to money, women, fame, fortune, for a man, all that is like a whirlwind, all dust that just flies through you. And it comes and it goes. A whirlwind, nothing like that. That's the beauty of ladies. A woman is very beautiful in her younger years. A child is very beautiful when he's small. So these are the reasons for that there'd be no propagation of the human race if there weren't beautiful women. Then Prabhupada said that's the enemy also. Women are too beautiful. Then the enemy, because if you marry a beautiful girl, then you got a problem. Too many people chasing her. And so, anyway, and then words coming from relatives, friends, it's like backbiting. It's like these things that now add you, like Karna had that big thing on his arm, was chewing away. He's not showing any pain. That term understood either. It's kind of a chuckle, not a drama. So, and then you'll hear harsh sound. If there are harsh sounds, I mean like crickets and owls and sounds, and all these sounds are created by animals. We have our infrared sound vibrations here in Vrindavan. Loudspeakers with huge long horns, and they just blast away. Usually they're located right across from your window. And so, excuse me. So these are like all, again, it's backed by the unfortunate in these words. And these are basically hard, probably described as harsh words from enemies. All these sounds that are, I mean, you go out here at night, it's just absolutely horrible. And so these are harsh sounds by enemies, and what's light to the day is opposite. So better not to go out. Stay away. I don't go out at night anymore. You just focus and concentrate on your work. So let me go back to 3 minutes here. Okay, because Prabhupada describing the atom is not the cause of the universe, although philosophers think so. It is the fact that the varieties found in the material world simply result from atomic juxtaposition and combination. And who's behind the atom? And Prabhupada would always say that on his morning walks, that who is behind the atom? Who created the atom? So that's all Hridayananda was saying. Well, it's just endless, it's just there. It happens to be there. Well, how did it get there? And so Prabhupada wouldn't leave it alone. So you got to define it, find the origin. And so the scientists, they haven't got the clue of where the origin of things come from. And so Prabhupada's whipping boy was Surabdhammadar. He stood up for science, and he kept getting it hit over and over again. Because ultimately, he was pure. I mean, he did it so well that Prabhupada could take that and hit him with it. Because he believed in the science up to a certain point in the time. That ultimately science is nothing but wisdom. Okay, you got an atom bomb, but let's use it. So when Einstein discovered that they had the capability of doing something horrendous, a small mass created infinite explosion. And so that was the beginning of the atomic age. That started in 1939. And so that was told to President Roosevelt at that time, that he had in his hand. It was being developed, but they didn't know how to do it the hard water. In any case, Hitler had it. So Hitler had 3 atom bombs. He had the first jet propulsion was done by Hitler in Germany. First liquid fuel. That was all done by Hitler's scientists. And they were way ahead of everybody. And so if they had attacked Britain, they would have won. And the British were totally unprepared for an attack. I mean, they could come in by the coast and sweep right through the whole of Britain. And luckily, they didn't make it. So ultimately, the end result is the misuse of atomic energy. And so now, of course, it's changing. There's atomic power plants, and if they don't spill over, it's a benediction, it's a blessing. So I'll stop here. Any questions, or Maharaj, any further explanation? You can maybe explain more about what you were saying. You got the loudspeaker, microphone.
Yeah, this theme about what is real and what is not real will be coming up a lot in this chapter. So I'm sorry if I didn't make myself very clear yesterday in the class. The word phenomenal has various definitions. In a philosophical context, it means the world, like the world of appearances, the phenomenal world, as opposed to the nominal, Noumenal. So the nominal means what's really out there, what is really existing. So what we perceive with our senses and what's really existing is not not the same thing. And many philosophers have taught this idea. All I was trying to suggest yesterday, I didn't have the opportunity because of the time factor, but basically that the world, the phenomenal reality is, the basis the same. When we say the world is not real, we heard in today's text that the universe is not real. It just came right out and said that. The text, it was Jadvara, self-realized soul, is saying the universe is right there in the bhagavatam. So, and then at the same time, I say the universe is real, the world is real.
There's a statement by Prabhupada Yogeshwar, I gave it in a memory, that Prabhupada said this. He was asked about what's real and not real. He says the word dreaming, that's a dream state. But what in the reality of this present world, it's very real. You can touch it, you can feel it, you see it, it's all real. He says, well, it's only because you're awake longer. You get that? So the dream state continues. We're still dreaming. Now we're in a dream state that actually we think we're here, that we're given as part of a bhagavatam class, but it's not real. It's just temporary. And so, and Prabhupada's definition is very clear about that. Ultimately, the reality is connected to Krishna only. So once we are connected, then reality starts. So now it's real. So now you're here and now you're not. So it's real, it's unreal. It all depends on Krishna and Krishna's association and association devotees. So if you're in the material world, you walk outside, it's not real. It's Vrindavan, that's real. But it's material world, that's not real. So you think about that, what's real and what's not real. And ultimately, come up with your own ideas, but ultimately it's something, food for thought, because when you're in this situation, this body seems real. And Prabhupada says that there's not going to be any ailments to the body. The body doesn't age. We think it ages, and so it ages. And so a lot of it's our thought process, and what we think is what manifests. And so we have that little token of desire, and we have that token free choice. And so whatever we think about is what actually takes place in our life. So we have that choice. It's minuscule, but we have an option. If we want to go to hell, go right out the door, leave Krishna consciousness, door's wide open, take your choice. If you want to stay and be a devotee and follow the program, ultimately, that's your choice. And so, depending on the choice, we don't progress at all. So, it's all based on desire and intent and how we approach our own spiritual life and how we help others in the same way. That ultimately, one way is to sit in your room and chant, do 120 rounds, but the other is to preach and ultimately expand the knowledge and give it to other people so they can take it and carry it somewhere else so that it expands, keeps increasing. That's infinity. And so they try to find infinity by going in or out. It doesn't matter. Infinity can't be marked. And so the same thing with the promise of spreading this movement all over the world. It's an infinity that actually can go any direction you want it. It can be based in any way you want to take it. So everybody has their own options of how to do it. But ultimately we should be thinking that how to increase, how to expand, how do we give this knowledge to more people, especially those people who are resistant or resilient against any change. And so these people are the ones that need it the most. And ultimately it comes in different ways. Culture can do it. We're cultural revolution. So it's not just preaching through words. I happen to do it in pictures and sculpture and art ways and architecture. So there are many ways, and it's all preaching. Prabhupada says the best and the biggest book distributors were the artists, because they were giving the books, the sale of the books depended on the pictures on the cover. So the artists were very important for that part of the process. Now we're not really doing much in that sense, but it's starting again. That in Mayapur, the big planetarium temple is going on, and I happen to be a part of it, and I'm designing there's 3 levels in the base of the dome, the drum, and so the dome is going on now. But on that base level, there's the whole story of the Bhagavatam, and that's the story of Gopakumar's ascension to the spiritual world. That'll be in a diorama form. I'm making all the drawings for it now, and it's over a couple hundred drawings. So the whole aspect, read that book. You want to take a trip to the spiritual world, go by the mercy of Sanatana Goswami, and you take Brihad Bhagavatam, and you'll find amazing things along the way that you never knew existed. How demons are going on in the spiritual world, Kamsa is being killed and reborn, and it goes on the perpetual roadshow. It's happening there in the spiritual world. There are demons there. All by Krishna's arrangement, and you need something to do. So, and they do it over and over and over again. So he's not, and then when he's taken away to Mathura, Akura comes, and he keeps coming over and over again. But he doesn't remember that he had just done it, a short time before. So it's a repeated story. Very interesting what Sanatana Goswami presents in the way of spiritual world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, go Brahmandi, all glories to somebody.